For the third time in 4 years, the Oklahoma Sooners have failed to score a single touchdown against the Burnt Orange and White and the Texas Longhorns as Texas stifles number 6 Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl once again. Sark owns Brent Venables, as we do know, as a fact, here on Sunday, October 12th, when we are recording. This is deep in the heart of Longhorn sports. Thank you guys so much for being here. My name is Michael Wein, obviously diehard Texas fan. And to my right there, is my fantastic co-host here every week, Mr. Emmy Nixon, wearing the burnt orange and white Longhorn hat. Love it. For the past couple of weeks, we've had our horns down for the performances that we've seen from this team, but now we get to wear it proudly and we get to brag a little bit on this episode. Should be very fun. We're picking up all the pieces of the very fun domination from yesterday from the Longhorns as they get a very big win to potentially save and possibly change the trajectory of the season. We'll talk about that. And near the back half of the show, or for the back half of the show, we're continuing the college basketball preview that you guys got a sneak peek of last week, but we didn't quite get into the thick of things with that. So we're hopefully going to talk about the SEC some more, and if we have time, we'll get into the ACC. Make sure you guys, right here, if you please would, like and subscribe. It doesn't cost you anything. You're not going to get emailed over and over about a subscription. You're not going to get texts. You're not going to be bugged about it. All you got to do is click the like button if you are watching this and click the subscribe button. Hell, if you're an Oklahoma fan, I don't even care if you hit the dislike button, if there is one of those. But if you hit subscribe, I'll allow you to do anything you want, pretty much. It doesn't
Troll
cost
us all you want. We don't care. We're a small channel. We're just trying to grow, man. Any engagement helps us.
Yeah. A subscription, hitting the subscribe button or a comment at the very least. If you're watching this, give us some kind of engagement. That's all we ask for. It doesn't cost you anything out of your pocket. It doesn't cost you pretty much any time to do it. We greatly appreciate it. Emmy, good to see you, first of all. We talked off camera. You got a certain pizza place that I am very fond of here in Austin. But we're not here to talk about that. We're here to talk about what happened yesterday, but how are you doing, my man?
Yeah, I'm doing really good, man. It was a great weekend. I chose my apartment. That's a very exciting thing. I'm going to be living up in Pflugerville starting in December. So that's going to be great. And it's also good to see, like you said, the burnt orange being, shown proudly. Just people hanging their flags outside of cars, hanging on their front porches. Like it's all the burnt orange is coming out and it's being shown, which is good to see because it was hidden there for a little while. So
How about this? There's a lot to get to, obviously. We don't have a ton of time to do it. But where do we start? Where does your head go first, thinking about yesterday's game?
I think it all starts with the lines of scrimmage. Um, every single, I think. Oh man, I think it's Jeff Lowe who had this stat. I got to give him his credit. I think it was 35 or 28 of the last 35 Red River rivalry games have been won by the team that has had more rushing yards than the other team, and that held true yesterday again. It always seems to when these two teams go on the field together. Like the team that's more physical and controls the line of scrimmage always seems to come out on top, and it was no different yesterday. I think the first half, especially the first quarter, you didn't really see Texas take a hold of the line of scrimmage. It was a little bit shaky at the start. But by the time the second half came around, it was really a continuation from what we saw last year, where Texas absolutely beat the shit at Oklahoma, held them scoreless. They basically couldn't move the ball at all, and honestly, it could have been a lot worse than 23-6 if we're being completely honest. There was a few dropped interceptions in there, a few fumbles that end up going back into Oklahoma's hands. So really awesome performance in the second half. Probably definitely the best, most complete performance we've seen from this team in that second half. Over an entire course of a half, that was the most complete we've seen this team play. No question about it.
Yeah. You talk about a game where Texas didn't punt, not a single punt for this team after the first quarter ended. Couple that with running the football effectively for the first time this year against a team with a pulse, plus 0 turnovers, and a really good game from Arch Manning, and you have quite the offensive performance to unpack. I thought if we could just have Trey Wisner play in the Cotton Bowl every year, every game against Oklahoma, he would be an All-American. Because that's how he played. He looked healthy. He was getting tough yards, making people miss out in the flat as a safety valve for Arch, and just running tough. And later on in that game, he looked like he was going to pass out. He looked like he was physically beat up. But credit, if I had my first game ball, and there are a lot of game balls to go around, but Trey Wisner would be it. He got it to 94 yards rushing on 22 carries. Not the greatest rushing performance in the world, but we'll take that after some of the struggles that we saw against Florida. If you told me going into this game that Texas was going to rush, they were going to have a 90-yard rushing performance from a running back alone, excluding any yards from Arch Manning or anybody else, I probably would have told you they would find a way to win that game if their defense played like they did yesterday. So credit to Trey Wisner. I don't think he's fully healthy yet. I just don't think you can be. Those hamstrings always nag at you, and that's the scary part about it. But he was excellent yesterday. There's no way around it. It can't be stressed enough that the Trey Wisner that showed up in that game 2 years in a row needs to show up more often. This Texas team needs some version of that Trey Wisner, running hard, finding lanes, the great vision that he has when he's at his best, breaking tackles, making a couple people miss in the backfield, getting the extra yards, taking tough hits. He did everything yesterday.
Yeah. When he runs better, the offensive line blocks better too. They feed off it.
Yes, exactly. When he came off the field against the Sooners, the rest of the running back room represented a pretty massive decline in ability, reliability, and explosiveness. But it's just my worry with Trey Wisner is too often last year he'd follow up a game like he had yesterday with a 17 for 45 yards, or an 18 carries for 45 yards, or a 19 carries for 51 yards, or 15 carries for 52 yards. We need more of this Trey Wisner going forward. But all the credit goes to him. I think he would tell you, and I think pretty much everyone else would tell you, if you gave them true serum, that he's not fully healthy yet coming off that hamstring. But they need more of that from him. He was awesome. And you talked about the line of scrimmage. Outside of the first quarter and some of the penalties, and I think one sack that Trevor Gooseby gave up, they had a performance that they can hang their heads hot. They can they can have their heads up. They can put their chin up after getting absolutely humiliated last week by Florida.
Yeah.
The offensive line, I don't know that you point to any singular one of those guys on the offensive line and say they played at an All-American level, but the sum was greater than the individual parts in this game. And blocking that Oklahoma front is not easy. I thought after the first quarter, they really settled in and started to find a rhythm. And that's awesome to see. So after getting humiliated last week, and I started to have this feeling after we recorded last week that there's no way that they're gonna they might lose Saturday, but there's no way that offensive line is gonna allow Oklahoma to humiliate them again after they just got humiliated in Gainesville.
Yeah.
Whether they had to hold 10 times, they were not letting Arch get sacked. I think he got sacked once yesterday. And if you told me Arch only gets sacked once, I definitely would have picked Texas to win this game, because I think in that second half, we 2 years in a row, after the first quarter, it's always kind of wild. These two teams always feel each other out. There's always some wild stuff that happens in the first quarter. The gap in talent that still raw talent that still exists at almost every position on the field from a recruiting standpoint, you saw it. You saw Texas start to separate in almost all three phases as that game went on. So credit to the offensive line and the running back, Trey Wisner, for a massive performance. But we're obviously, when we go 11 minutes into the show even, and we don't mention Arch Manning, we're kind of
Yeah.
burying the lead. So
Yeah.
what would you grade his performance yesterday?
That was an A-level performance. I think based on expectation against a very tough Oklahoma defense, in a game where we knew it was going to be a slug it out battle from the very beginning. We knew this game would be low scoring. I think that's just the reality of it. These are two of the best defenses in the entire country. So if you told me Arch wasn't going to put the ball in harm's way, no fumbles, no interceptions, and is going to play efficiently and play decisive, that's what I loved about it as well. He wasn't overthinking his decision making. He wasn't double clutching and second guessing himself. He was decisive, and just what he saw, he just let it rip. When he saw a guy, he just got it right to him. And I think that led to better accuracy, better rhythm, and that's another thing, the rhythm. I thought Sark did a better job getting him going early on in this game with a few screen passes. We saw Washington have that screen pass early on in the game, get that first down, that first completion, and think from there he just found his footing a lot easier. The first quarter of the game, the offensive line they were allowing pressure to get in, and he was able to maneuver within the pocket really well. I think that's a underrated part of Arch's game. It's not just his athletic ability, but also just his ability to maneuver within the pocket. You don't really see that too often from a first-year starter, but it's just way better. The numbers don't. I don't think do it justice.
Mm-mm.
Really, I think he didn't carry the team by any means, but he did everything that he had to do to win this game. So credit to him. I think he turned a corner. It's yet to be seen whether or not he can sustain it. Personally, I think he's gotten to a point where that level of play, I think he can sustain that. Whether he can step it up again, we'll see. But I think if Arch plays like this the rest of the season, Texas will have a chance in just about every game.
Absolutely. Arch Manning, believe it or not, for all the shit that's been talked about him, we're not going to talk about the New York Times article. I don't know if you saw that, Emmy, in that headline and read that article.
Oh.
That will take us way off track, and we'll end up spending 2 hours on this podcast. But for all the crap that's been talked about Arch Manning, and yes, relative to the expectations that, by the way, he didn't create for himself, but they're there. Sometimes it always isn't fair in this world. They're there because of his name, and we all understand that. We've talked about that a million times. For all the crap that's been talked about him, and yes, it has not been very good this year. There's been moments, right, where we know it's there, but it hasn't been good. He's posted now a 140 plus, 140 or better quarterback efficiency game rating for the fourth time in his last 5 games. Okay. Texas has played 6 games. So for the fourth time in the last 5 games since the Ohio State debacle, he's posted a 140 plus quarterback efficiency game rating. And he's turned the ball over no more than once for the 5th time in 6 games. The only time he turned the ball over more than once was last week against Florida when he threw 2 picks. So, I mean, look, football's not very difficult when you boil it all down. With this much talent on this team, even though we can nitpick position by position as we did last week and where they should have done this and where they should have gotten this guy in the portal. If you don't allow a team to run the ball effectively, and we'll get to the defense here in a minute. If you take care of the ball, you force multiple turnovers, and you get solid at worst quarterback play, which is what Texas got yesterday, and you don't turn the ball over, you win most of the time with as much talent that's on this team. Okay? And I think the big thing from yesterday is a lot of what happened yesterday is actually it can be replicated. It's just will they replicate it, right? Serviceable line play, actually more than serviceable line play considering the defense that they were playing outside of the first couple drives. A solid running game, nothing like that'll blow you away, but I mean they actually broke off a couple like runs longer than 15 yards yesterday. That was something I was waiting to see. Like, do they have a running back that has that ability? They do. They just need the guy to be healthy. But Arch, yes, he played a very good game. Didn't put the ball in harm's way at all. I don't remember him putting the outside of the one ball he tried to squeeze in on third down near the first time Texas got near the red zone to I think it was Parker Livingstone. That probably could have been picked by Peyton Bowen. I don't remember him throwing a ball that was clearly should have been picked. He was very good, and not to this isn't to bang on Quinn Ewers at all, but just to put it in perspective for you guys, those 140 plus quarterback ratings that I'm talking about for the last 5 games for Arch, Quinn Ewers had 5 of those games last year. Arch Manning has 4 this year. So his baseline consistency since the Ohio State game, statistically, it's not subjective, has actually been equal to or better than Quinn Ewers. And he hasn't been all that great this year so far. So the thing is, that has to continue. He can't go back to what he was against Florida, although I think he actually played pretty admirably against Florida considering the circumstances of the offensive line and how they played last week. But yes, Arch was an A-level performance. The stat page might not tell you that, but he did what he had to do in that game to win. And honestly, we as Texas fans are just going to have to accept this team has a way that they need to win, and they can do it. They just got to do it. And now it's a week-by-week thing for them. And by the way, I've kind of been banging on this receiver core outside of Parker Livingstone, the plays he's made this year. I thought for the first time this season, DeAndre Moore looked like he actually played football for Texas. He had a great game.
Definitely.
So credit to him.
That also brings me to another point is the red zone.
Mm-hmm.
They showed up in the red zone big time as well.
Yeah.
What were you going to say?
No, I was just going to say credit to DeAndre Moore because I banged on him a lot this year, and he deserves it yesterday. He played really well. Pause. Yes. I knew I was going to say some wild shit today. Didn't know it was going to be that, but whatever. No, but I've been hard on DeAndre Moore for a while now, and he's been hurt. But he, this receiver core, I thought they made the plays that they needed to make. And yeah, overall, it's an offensive performance that Texas can be proud of. They only scored 1 offensive touchdown, but at the end of the day, they took the points when he was giving them, right? They kicked a couple field goals. Credit to Mason Shipley for making a couple of those.
Yeah.
Um, and then, offensive line had a really good game, and the run game was the biggest thing for me. Like, if they can just run the ball like that, anything on top of it is a bonus. They will win their next couple of games leading into Georgia. But we'll set that aside for a minute. Defensively, what stood out to you?
Again, the line of scrimmage was it was great to see that that defensive line really bow up against this Oklahoma team, and obviously Oklahoma's run game is not Florida's run game. Jaden Baugh, or can't remember, I think it's Jordan Baugh or Jaden Baugh,
Jaden
Florida's
Ball.
running back. He's an NFL running back. He's going to be playing on Sundays as soon as next season, if not 2 years from now. Not sure what his eligibility is, but regardless of that, he is a NFL level running back, and I don't think what Oklahoma has is equivalent to that, given that they're throwing in a true freshman in there. So they just the yards weren't they weren't there to be had. They were right there in their run fits the whole game. Like it just felt like Oklahoma got no push across the board, really. And I mean, outside of like the first half where you had like a few guys running wide open here and there, or like a few blown coverages, like on that first drive, but that's really it. Like the Oklahoma just really did not move the ball against this Texas team really at all. So um, the defense was awesome. And like, there's no question about it. Like with Texas playing in the lead, this defense can be so much better and they can play so much more aggressively, which is why it's so important to start strong. And obviously, they didn't start off strong in this game, but it just matters, like getting the lead and just you know having the confidence in your offense, I guess, because really it got to 10-6 and it felt hopeless for Oklahoma. Like they
Yep.
couldn't move the ball at all. Like the idea of them scoring another touchdown just didn't feel plausible at all.
Yeah, it felt like the blunder in the first half where they mismanaged the clock and Mateer throws that ball up in the end zone for no particular reason at all, other than to try to get some miracle touchdown. And he throws it right to Manny Muhammad. Right, like if Texas could get their shit together offensive, they're winning this game. There's no way Texas is losing after they just fucked that up. And yeah, they did. They came out the first drive of the second half and they scored a touchdown. That was that. Because this defense was excellent. Like I think as of right now, where we sit, the Florida performance was more of an anomaly, more so than anything. This is more what I expected from this defense. You mentioned the line of scrimmage. It can't be stressed enough that over the last couple of weeks, since SEC play began, really dating back to that Sam Houston State game, but really like last week and this week in particular, Colin Simmons is starting to play at a level where you say, okay, that's the Colin Simmons I expected coming in.
Yeah.
And get this, guys. This is why you recruit 5-star players. Lance Jackson is actually emerging as potentially like the second or third best defensive lineman on this team with how he's playing. He finished with a sack, 4 pressures, and 2 quarterback hits on 11 snaps. Do you know how productive that is? 2
That's
quarterback hits,
ridiculous.
4 pressures, and a sack on 11 snaps. He is
And how many of
starting.
and like I want to know how many of those were actually pass plays, because like his pass rush win rate was probably like above 50%. It's ridiculous.
Yeah, he was insane yesterday. He was the highest graded Longhorn, according to PFF. Now, PFF, say what you want about it, but like it is what, like, take that for what it's worth, I guess.
Yeah.
But he played a great game. And Brad Spence, you want to talk about a guy that made a difference from their portal class yesterday? He was all over the place. Him, Colin Simmons, and Lance Jackson were all over the place. They were in the Oklahoma backfield the entire second half. The pass rush really teed off on Mateer. They got some sacks. I don't know how many sacks they finished with, but I finished with more sacks than Oklahoma did. So that was really good. And then they did get their share of picks, like John Mateer threw in the ball. Manny Muhammad, it can't be stressed enough, I think, looking back on it, how much Texas missed him last week against Florida.
Yeah.
I'm not saying they would have won that game with Manny Muhammad, on the field healthy, but probably makes somewhat of a difference. I mean, he's been the best cover corner that Texas has, and they have a lot of good ones so far this year. 2 picks. The one thing I wanted more from Manny Muhammad coming into this year was the playmaking, and he's given that to me. So great for him. And Grayson Littleton got in on the party. And if Jelani McDonald holds on to that pick 6 that he should have almost had, I think his performance from yesterday would have shot him into the stratosphere on the national level as one of the best defensive backs in America, because he's played like that. Manny Muhammad's played like that. Overall, it's just a super complete performance from the Texas defense. They got pressure. Yeah. They forced turnovers. They didn't allow Oklahoma into the end zone. And it's pretty amazing. It's pretty mind-blowing to think. If you would have told a Texas fan back in even 5 years ago that there would be a 4-year stretch where in 3 of those years, Oklahoma would fail to score a single touchdown against Texas, what would you have said? That's crazy. And then the last, you can probably read my mind on this one, but the last game ball that we have to give out here is Ryan Niblett for the punt return.
Yep.
That was an awesome play. And if we can ever update our intro, maybe for next year, we got to put that play on that intro. That was an awesome play. I'll admit it, there were probably some not so legal blocks on that play that helped to free Niblett on that punt return. But that's what I like to see. Those are the plays that we need. And look, Ryan, as a Texas player, and obviously there are high standards for this program now, and rightfully so. But if you never make a play for the rest of your career at Texas, but that's the play you make in that game, people will appreciate you forever. Because if you make plays against Oklahoma, you're beloved forever, and that's what he did. So credit to him.
Yeah. Last couple of points I want to make before we move on to college basketball. To your point about the pass rush felt as a collective, maybe the stat line didn't reflect it, but the pocket was being condensed on Mateer throughout the entire game. That's what it kind of felt like. And he was having to force throws that he probably didn't want to force because there was just people crashing into him basically the entirety of the game. And there was one other point. Oh, yeah. One thing that I didn't mention last week that I thought might change for this week was I think Texas playing 3 cupcake games in a row attributed to them kind of getting punched in the mouth, particularly in that first half against Florida. That jump in competition, that's a very significant jump because you're going from Sam Houston State, who's one of the worst teams in the country, to playing Florida, who has one of the, probably a top 5 offensive line in the SEC. They're a very good offensive line. Say what you want about that team, about that offense, but their offensive line is very, very good. So that I think played a part in Texas not coming out, ready to match Florida's physicality in that game. But I think Texas showed that they are actually, like they represented themselves better in this game. Like this is who Texas is more so than who they were last week. Like this is who Texas will be the rest of the season.
Yep. 2 things on my end, then we'll move on. Ryan Niblett gets the 70-yard punt return. And guess what? After that, he leads the SEC in punt return average. Isn't that nuts?
That is nuts.
And then number 2, and look, that's credit to him, but it might also speak to like there might not be a great punt returner in the SEC. I don't know. Going back to Arch for a minute, on third down is where he really made a difference yesterday. Because for whatever reason, until like the late second quarter and second half yesterday, Texas had been putting one of the reasons this offense has struggled so much is because they can't run the ball, or they couldn't until yesterday. So they put themselves into third and long. They had put themselves into a lot of third and longs. And when you have a young quarterback, a not so great offensive line, that's a bad recipe for an offense. 3rd and 9, 3rd and 12, 3rd and 15. The holding penalties. The penalties also factor into this. Like they've shot themselves in the foot some, but they've also because they haven't run the ball effectively, they've put themselves into a lot of 3rd and longs early on in this season. They were basically in 3rd and long all day against Ohio State. And that's a credit to their defense, but Arch Manning yesterday, it didn't matter what it was. Beyond the first 2 drives, he was 11 for 12 for 117 yards and a touchdown on third down. 7 of those third downs were converted. And Texas was 10 for 18 on third down. More than 50% on third down. That's when you rush for more yards than the other team, you have more sacks than the other team, you force more turnovers than the other team, you have a better quarterback play than the other team, it's very hard to lose. So credit to Arch for not just playing well, but playing well on the money down. That's where he made his money yesterday, so to speak. And then one word on Oklahoma. Have you looked at their schedule? Where do you think Oklahoma sits from here on out?
Yeah, so they play South Carolina, and then I want to say they play.
I'll pull up their schedule. You just give your quick thoughts on John Mateer and Oklahoma as a team after yesterday.
Yeah, I think this game definitely affects Venable's standing within that program for sure. Because I think if you asked before this game, I think Venables was probably viewed very positively with the moves that he's made, the fact that he got the offensive coordinator hire correct this time around, the upgrades they've made at the skill positions. But it was pretty evident in this game that the skill position talent still is not on the level that it needs to be for this Oklahoma team to compete for a national title. So that goes straight back to Venables and whether he's the right guy, because you got to be able to get the offensive side of the ball right. You can be the greatest defensive play caller of all fucking time. If you can't put points on the board, if you're scoring 6 points in a game against a rival, you're not winning that game. There's just no way. So if you're an Oklahoma fan right now, you're probably questioning that. I think Venables is a really good coach. I don't think he deserves to get fired or anything like that. But I think that's something you're definitely questioning if you're an Oklahoma fan right now.
On the road at South Carolina. South Carolina's not a great team. They can be on night. They have nights where they are, but they haven't been that consistent this year. So Oklahoma can win that game. But then home against Ole Miss. Ole Miss didn't look great yesterday. You never know.
No.
At Tennessee, at Alabama.
Sheesh.
Yikes. Home against Missouri, and then home against LSU to finish it out. So, the good thing for Oklahoma is they do get 4 of those games at home, but like that's tough. That's a tough. That's a tough schedule. So, last question? Do you think they brought Mateer back at the right time? Like, do you think it was the right decision to bring him back for that game? Because I didn't think he looked like it was bothering him at all. The hand, I don't think that was the issue
Yeah,
yesterday.
I don't think so either. I think he has a gunslinger mentality, regardless of whether his thumb is right or not. So I think those picks that he threw, you know that's just a byproduct of his aggressive mindset, rather than him feeling like he has to press or something like that. So I think the decision to play him was fine. I think just the you know giving him options when the pocket collapses, like I just didn't see like a whole lot of like you know easy options for him, outlets like with that running back coming out of the backfield and flat, like just somewhere to go when the pocket is collapsing. Like they just didn't feel like there was a whole lot there.
Yeah, I would agree. Okay, well, great win for Texas. And look, right now, this is just a week by week. It should be a week by week mentality with the Horns. They just got to take care of business week by week. Go 1-0 this week. And I hate saying that because there's a particular coach that just got fired that said that all the time. But like that has to be the thing with this team is they have to just go be the most boring team in college football next week. Don't allow people to talk. Don't allow people to talk about Texas against Kentucky. It should go unnoticed on the national radar next week because the only way it gets noticed is how is if Kentucky's in that game or they pull the upset, right? Texas just needs to go take care of business. Like defense, do what you did yesterday. They're in that bottom tier of the conference. Like there's no like super easy game in this conference, but just go take care of business in that game, please. And then we can talk about Mississippi State, which could be a little bit challenging. But yeah, I think that's it. Anything else? We have about 20 minutes to talk college hoops.
Yeah,
So
let's do it.
let's do this thing. College basketball preview, part 1 continued. We started last week by talking about Texas and giving our 30,000 foot view of this team going into this year. I think where I want to start today is the news that came out a couple weeks ago in the SEC regarding Bruce Pearl, the coach at Auburn, coming off a Final Four appearance, his second in his career, retiring and handing the reins over to his son, Stephen Pearl, at Auburn, who signed a 5-year contract to be the head coach. So obviously, like, he's had this plan in place for a while now. Any thoughts on Bruce Pearl and his legacy, and not maybe knowing or not knowing anything about Auburn basketball this year in their team this year? Should be like a top 20 team and really good in the SEC. Does Bruce Pearl in a vacuum retiring change how you would view them? Like, is he that big of a difference? Or do you like
To an extent, because we know how important coaching is in college basketball. That's so important. Like remove scheme from it, remove, you know, I guess, you know, practice drills from it, like what things he likes to do. Remove all that out of the equation. Just having that consistent voice in the locker room makes a difference. Like year over year over year, having that same voice be the lead, like lead the charge, that helps. So, obviously Stephen Pearl has been in the building, and these players are familiar with how he does things, and he's probably going to do a lot of similar stuff. So, I think the good news is it's so close to the season that they're not going to deal with a lot of the portal attrition. that you usually would have to if you
Mhm.
lose your coach. So from that standpoint, I think you feel pretty positively that this can be pretty stable here. So I think hiring from within, I think is a, um, I think it's the right move if you're going to make a move like this, because you can at least be transparent with your players. Like, hey, like if I retire, like when you're recruiting them, you're probably like, hey, like if I retire, this is going to be who's in charge, and then like you can go forward with that.
Yeah. I think he's. I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. Like a lot of people don't like Bruce Pearl or didn't like Bruce Pearl for a while. I actually like him. I like those fiery like coaches and that kind of attitude. Um, and just because like he brought Auburn one of the worst Power Four basketball programs that existed, legitimately, and he turned them into a powerhouse in the toughest conference in America. Um, won 246 games at Auburn in 11 years, 246 and 125. He had two Final Four appearances, and I think once you get multiple Final Four appearances, even if you don't win a national championship, you're on like the borderline of getting into the Naismith Basketball Hall of Fame, which I hope he gets in one day. 5 SEC championships between tournament titles and regular season titles, and 11 NCAA tournament wins. And he revived a program that was absolutely dead. So like he had a fantastic career. Auburn basketball has been, in terms of wins, like just wins and losses, they've been the winningest program in the SEC in the last 3 years combined. 3 consecutive 25 plus win seasons for Bruce Pearl at Auburn. In the 111 years that Auburn basketball had played basketball prior, they had one of those seasons. He won, as I said, 5 SEC championships. So, like, I hope he gets into the Hall of Fame. I really like Bruce Pearl. It kind of sucks that he's retiring because, not because he doesn't deserve to retire. It's just like college basketball has lost so many great coaches over the last couple of years to retirement. That kind of sucks. But like, I hope Auburn is able to continue to sustain this success, because the jungle, when it's rolling and teams have to go into, like, you don't go into Auburn and win that often anymore. Now it's a lot easier to do it now on the football side of things, but like on the basketball side, he turned that program into a powerhouse, and just for doing that, I think he should get heavy consideration for the Hall of Fame. That's kind of my view on them. Might change a little bit. Like they might not have the national title ceiling, I think, that they may have had with Bruce Pearl anymore. But like I don't know much about Stephen Pearl. I don't know. Maybe he's a stud. Maybe he's the next star. Who knows? He's been under the tutelage of his dad for I don't know how many years now, but a couple of years at the very least. And um, like with their roster, with Tahad Pettiford, who could have been a lottery pick coming back, one of the best point guards in the SEC, and the roster that they have around him, they have enough talent, considering nobody went to the portal and they were able to retain everyone after his retirement. Like they definitely have enough talent. We'll just have to see, is Stephen Pearl like a replica of his father? Is he able to sustain not only just the momentum within the program, but also on the recruiting trail? Because they've been a power in the transfer portal for a couple of years now. I guess I'll ask you this: what SEC basketball storyline or team, is there one outside of the Longhorns that you would like to discuss?
Yeah, I think it's whether Florida can repeat. Um, that's that's the one that comes to mind for me. Like I think obviously you had UConn winning 2 years in a row um, before Florida won last year, but Florida, they bring back a really strong team this year, um, and I'm not. super familiar with what they did in the portal, but they have a lot of their key players from last year returning.
Yep. Yes. I definitely think Florida can repeat. Doesn't mean it's going to be easy, but they definitely have the roster to do it. One of the reasons why is I think they might have the best front court in America this year because they bring back all those guys from last year's team. Alex Condon, who could have gone to the draft. Thomas Hout, who was excellent for them last year in the tournament. And Ruben Chenyulu, who was a great guy off the bench for them. Like, they're going to have a big, strong, physical front line. They've got two guys in Thomas Howe and Alex Condon that can score in the post, but also stretch it and make catch and shoot shots on the perimeter. And then you go get two like excellent guards in the portal to replace what you lost last year with Elijah Martin and Walter Clayton. None of those guys might be as good or as clutch as Walter Clayton, but like Boogie Flan, super talented, sophomore, averaged 13.5 points per game last year at Arkansas. Was a 5-star coming out of high school, and then Xavier Lee, like that dude has been balling in the Ivy League for a long time now. He's a great like scoring guard, averaged 16.5 points per game last year with 5.5 assists, and they're bringing back just so much off the bench from last year's team. They definitely have the talent to repeat. They have the best. I think they have the best in terms of the SEC. They have the best combination of continuity and portal plugs. Like, they have so much continuity off their bench and in the front court that they just have to have these guards figure it out between them. And I don't think they're going to have much problem doing it. It's not going to be easy to repeat. Like, you still have to get into the tournament and win 6 games in a row. And we know like how hectic how much of a grind it is to like make it through an 18-game regular season SEC schedule, play an SEC tournament, and then win those 6 games. Likely most of them against like equal competition, but like if any team can do it, they can do it. And Todd Golden is a rising star in college basketball coaching. He truly is. He has his national championship, already has one, and like they have it rolling at Florida. So like if you're a Florida fan and you're just flabbergasted at how Florida can't get it together on the football field, well, you have a basketball program that you can be proud of. So yeah, that and then there's always going to be this dynamic in the SEC between Kentucky and Arkansas because Coach Calipari last year goes from Kentucky to Arkansas, and Kentucky hires Mark Pope. He did a very good job last year at Kentucky. Like, first year, had an entire team from the portal. Literally, he was hired there at Kentucky, and they had to get an entire team in like a span of 3 weeks together from the portal. And they made the Sweet 16 with that team. It was pretty impressive. He's going into his second year, and they have a lot of talent. The one thing I'll say about Kentucky is Otega Owe, who used to play at Oklahoma, by the way, while we're on the Oklahoma thing. He had a great year last year, and he's going to be one of the favorites for not only SEC Player of the Year, but potentially like National Player of the Year if Kentucky is really good this year. Now, they did lose a good amount. They lose Lamont Butler. They lose Jackson Robinson. They lose Amari Williams. They lose Kobe Brea. They lose Andrew Carr. So that they had a very experienced team last year. But I think Mark Pope's an excellent coach. I think they're going to have a better defensive team this year. They had an elite offense last year. The team that actually Texas beat, I was at that game. I remember it now. That was insane. That was probably Texas' best win of the season. One of them, at least. But like he went and he got really athletic, high motor guys that can guard on the perimeter. I think they're going to be better defensively this year. It all comes down to Jaden Quaintance. Jaden Quaintance is going to be an X factor. He's a really talented, like he was a 5-star. He commits to Kentucky, then he decommits, goes to Arizona State, plays well last year, and then is back at Kentucky this year. They get him in the portal. He's had injuries, but like if he lives up to his potential, Kentucky can win a national championship if their guards play at the level I think they're capable of. Denzel Aberdeen was a guy that, if you remember, made some big plays off the bench for Florida last year. They went and got him in the portal. That's a big time get for them. I think that dynamic between Kentucky and Arkansas, I don't know much about Arkansas. I have to look at their roster. But like that's always going to be fun. Both programs, by the way, made the Sweet 16 last year, so that should be interesting.
Yeah, definitely. What's your take on Arkansas heading into the season?
Well, I think Coach Cal did a really good job there. They took out Rick Pitino and company in the second round last year. If you guys remember that game, and
Yeah.
St. John's was one of the hottest teams in America going into the tournament. The thing with Arkansas is like they're under Coach Cal. You're always going to have some of the best athletes in America. It's just is he going to get the most out of them as a team, and are they going to mesh together? That was always the question at Kentucky. But I think Calipari might have the best core returning in the SEC outside of Florida. They added 2 5-stars. And you look at their starting lineup, like it's going to be a senior, a junior, and a senior, plus a freshman. What wins in college basketball? It's experience. And that's one of the things that I think people banged on Calipari while he was at Kentucky. He never had enough experience, it felt like, to win at the highest level that you're expected to win at when you were the coach at Kentucky. But like, I think they had a good offseason. They're really talented. We'll just have to see. The thing I think people hate about college basketball is there's so many like unknowns with all these players that you probably don't know going into the season. But they seemed to figure something out late last year. They played at a faster tempo, and Trayvon Brazile was moved into the starting lineup. He's coming back this year, so like if they're able to carry all that over from last year, and Darius Acuff, who's like their 5-star guard, is able to hit the ground running right away, they can make a deep run. They can. I don't know if they can win the SEC, but they're like I think it's Florida, and then there's a second tier of Kentucky, Arkansas, and Auburn, plus maybe Alabama, if you want to put them in there. In Tennessee, obviously. So, and yeah, that's also. I guess we have a couple minutes left here. That's also another story. Is like, will Rick Barnes finally get over the hump? Former coach at Texas, wins as much as any other coach in the regular season. 30-8 last year. They made the Elite Eight. They actually had one of their best tournament runs in a while. Will he finally get to the Final Four? Will he maybe win a national championship this year? We'll just have to see. The recipe for success at Tennessee the past couple years has been, okay, we're going to go into the portal and we're going to find just a gem, an absolute bucket at guard that just can take over games. And they did that. The thing I want to see with Tennessee is, like last year it was Chaz Lanier, and the year before that it was, oh gosh, what is the guy's name that's now in the Lakers? Dalton Connect. Does he still play for the Lakers?
Dalton Connect, yeah, he's as of right now, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, so 2 years ago is Dalton Connect, and we know how good he was in his year at Tennessee. And nobody knew about him before he showed up to Tennessee. And then last year it was Chaz Lanier, who was excellent for them, 18 points per game. Um, they found this dude in the portal that just is different from everyone else, right? That's how they've really like separated themselves from competition. That and of course their defense, which is always good. Um, they may have done it again this year with Jacoby Gillespie, who's one of the best guards in the Big Ten last year at Maryland. We'll see how good he is. But the thing I wanted to point out with Tennessee is like the big question with them is what is their culture going to look like this year? Because they lose the heart and soul of that program in Zakai Ziegler. So I'm interested to see that. But if Rick Barnes does it as well as anyone until he gets to the tournament for the most part, so I'm interested to see what that looks like.
Yeah, they probably have one of the best starting fives in the conference. I still question their depth a little bit, and when it comes to winning in March, also their shooting is probably like from their starting five, like their shooting as a lineup is pretty damn good, and you feel pretty good about that. But what are they going to get from their second unit? It's just what I like. That's an underrated part of March Madness, like getting a guy that comes off the bench and can give you, 12 points on a night. That can be the difference between you winning and losing.
Yep. Okay, I'm just going to read what The Athletic says about Texas. So there's an article that came out last week in The Athletic if you have a subscription. I think it's pretty good sports writing outside of the thing that was published last week about Arch. Um, but that's just my confirmation bias kicking in. They have tiers, right? And in the bubble bound tier, which we discussed on our last episode, is Texas correctly positioned as like a bubble team going into this year? Probably, but I think they have a little higher potential than that. They have A&M and then they have Texas. So here's what they say about the Longhorns in case you guys don't have access. So as we know, the Longhorns lose Trey Johnson, pretty big loss. Interested to watch what he does in the NBA this year. They lose Arthur Kaluma, another Laker, I think. Isn't he on the Lakers now? And then Caden Shedrick, he graduated. So here's what they say. Xavier made the NCAA tournament last year and finished tied for fourth in the Big East. The Musketeers would have been the 13th best team in the SEC. That's just the difference in depth and amount of teams in both conferences. According to KenPom ratings, Sean Miller has similar talent in his first year at Texas. Xavier finished at 40th at Bart Torvik, and Texas debuts at 36. And by the way, preseason KenPom ratings came out today, and Texas is 39th. That's notable. They go on to say Texas is not nearly as good of a shooting team, but could be much better defensively with players like Tremont Mark, Cam Heide, Simeon Wilcher, and Kendall Weaver, who have all played for elite defensive teams in the past. The Longhorns are a little thin up front and will need Matas Voikatitis to produce. Shot creation shouldn't be a problem, but perimeter shooting could be. Eventually, it wouldn't be surprising to see Miller accumulate talent and surefire pros like he did at Arizona. This first roster is a decent collection of solid college players, but is probably lacking when it comes to NBA players.
I think the thing for me with Texas, they mentioned like the thin front court. That front court is going to have to stay healthy. Is my thing. Like we've seen Shedrick go down in the past, and in the past when Shedrick went down, we didn't really have much to go to behind him. This year, it's a little bit better in terms of just aggregate size, like as a unit. Like we're putting a bunch of guys on the floor that are above 6'7", 6'8", which helps a lot for sure. So that won't feel quite as as bad as in past years, but it's still so important for what's his name? But Matas, whatever the fuck. I don't know. I don't know what the fuck is his name, bro. I'll learn it soon, but I don't know right now, bro. Um, that guy,
Just
he
call him
needs to
Big
stay healthy. He
Matas.
needs to produce, like to their point, for sure.
Just call him Big Matas because he's huge.
Big Matas, yeah.
Okay, we've hit the 1 hour mark. We will continue our college basketball preview next week or in our next episode. We'll probably move somewhat away from the SEC and more towards the ACC and other conferences next week. But we're like tomorrow. We're 3 weeks away. I'm super excited, and we're like a week plus a couple of days away from the NBA. Is that right?
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm excited
October
for that.
21st, I want to say. Yeah. 9 days.
Emmy and I might put out a little bonus NBA content if we decide to do so. It'll be fun to do if we do it.
Yeah.
But
Most likely recorded on Wednesday.
Yep.
So stay tuned.
I hope we do. That'll be really fun. Real quick though, before we get out of here, this can be our parting shot. You can do it in like a couple sentences. Try to at least. Thoughts on the situation at Penn State with them firing James Franklin?
$50 million for a buyout is fucking nuts. That's all I'm going to say. I think, whether you want to fire him, like, sure. But I think Franklin has probably earned the right to close out the year. Like, come on. Like, to fire him mid-season is a little crazy to me. And to Josh Pate's point, he said this early on tonight on his show. Teams are still in the old age of college football with their, I guess, philosophies on whether to keep coaches. Like to them, still like it's still 9 wins when it like at worst, like that's the expectation. Like no, like that's not what it is anymore, man. Teams are too damn good. Like up and down your conference, you've got good teams. So it's not the same anymore, man.
Yeah, I agree with you because I was texting with a friend last night about the situation at Penn State and how 2 weeks in a row they went in as 20-point favorites, 20-plus point favorites, and they lost.
Yeah,
That's bad. Can't do
that's
that
awful.
at Penn State.
Yeah.
So we were talking about, like, should, in theory, James Franklin at least be on the hot seat? We weren't really talking about – we both agreed they might have to consider it depending on how south this season goes. Like, he should at least get some heat because this was the team that Penn State said, like, we're returning these running backs. We're getting our quarterback back. We have the team we went into the portal. We got all these wide receivers, right, for the first time in a couple of years. Like, this was supposed to be the team coming off a semifinal run that was supposed to challenge for the national title.
Yeah.
So it's like from that aspect, it's very disappointing to now, like you actually put up a very admirable effort, like in Eugene a couple of weeks ago, and took one of the top teams in America. Although Indiana had something to say about that yesterday, to double overtime. But like you just can't lose 2 games in a row as that big of a favorite against UCLA and who was it yesterday? Northwestern.
Yeah, Northwestern at home. At home.
Like you can't lose those games. And the one thing you could say about James Franklin up until the last couple of weeks was, okay, he might not win the big games. He might not ever be able to get over that hump for whatever reason that you want to blame it on. I don't really care. He might not do that. Like he might not beat the top 5 teams in the country. He might not have a great record against the top 10 teams in the country. But up until this year, you could always rely on James Franklin and Penn State to beat who they were supposed to beat. And that's, I think, the biggest issue this year. Because this was the team that was expected to compete for Big Ten championship and a national title, and now you're losing to Northwestern and UCLA, teams that you absolutely should beat. And you especially can't lose to them at home. Like, I understand the cross-country trip last week to UCLA from some standpoint, but, like, you just can't. So I don't think they should have fired him now, but, like, I don't know, man. At least I guess if you're Penn State, at least you ripped the Band-Aid off.
Yeah.
But I think if you had to fire him now, you have to know who you're going to hire. Like, they have to know, they have to have somebody in mind. Like, this is our guy.
Yeah, they're gonna go get a big name for sure. I, I'm gonna throw this name out there. It's probably not gonna happen, but John Gruden.
I mean,
I would be down for that.
you at least have to make a call.
Yeah, hit him up. Be like, hey, I know you want to be in the SEC, but how about the Big Ten? Huh?
Yeah, it's a very
Never
good
know.
job. I don't think it's an elite job, but it's a very good job.
It is. Yeah, that's
Yeah.
an historic program.
I was listening to a podcast earlier. Um, like I've heard names mentioned, names thrown out already. Um, I've heard Matt Rule thrown out there. I don't love that.
Yeah.
I've heard who's the name that I heard earlier? Uh, this is an interesting one because where did James Franklin coach before Penn State? Vanderbilt. Clark Lee is doing some good things at Vanderbilt. So if they wanted to go like the kind of like that route, like a guy who's winning with less, I guess, if you will, they could. I don't think that's likely, but that was an interesting name that got thrown out. He's doing a really good job at Vanderbilt so far this year, or the past couple years. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe they look into the NFL and find someone there. I don't know who you're going to find. But yeah, it should be an interesting time. The coaching carousel this year could be bonkers.
Here's a name. John Harbaugh.
I mean,
Could you imagine?
the people in Baltimore seem to be pretty tired of him. So you never know.
Yeah. I don't think they'll fire him though.
No.
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't know. Like, do you shoot for the stars and call? I don't know. Like, think about this though. We could have the Arkansas job's already open. The Auburn job could be open. I think that job's going to open. Not now, but at the end of the season, like if Auburn doesn't get their shit together, they're already 0-3 in conference play. He's gone. And I like Hugh Freeze, but like that's not working out.
Yeah, and to be fair to them, the refs were just
Oh yeah,
disgusting.
they've gotten their like they've gotten the stick in their ass a couple times from the refs, but like
yeah, at the end of the day, they've just
nobody's gonna feel bad for them.
Yeah.
At the end of the day.
Yeah.
And then the Florida job could definitely open. So
Yeah.
like, and we don't know like what other jobs could surprisingly open. So like the coaching carousel could be one of those years. Guys, that's gonna do it here on this edition of Deep in the Heart of Longhorn Sports. Thank you guys for tuning in. Really appreciate it. And make sure, as we mentioned earlier, to like and subscribe. Again, doesn't cost you anything. Doesn't cost you but a couple seconds of your life, if that. And it helps us. And you won't get any emails or reminders that you're even subscribed to the channel. You'll probably forget about it.
Yeah. If you're 69 minutes into this podcast and you haven't subscribed, then
that's true. That's probably the best
problem.
That's probably the best pitch that you can give. If you're 69 minutes into watching us two idiots talk about sports, and you haven't hit the subscribe button, what are you doing? What are you doing? Anyways,
I think I know what I'm going to title this podcast, by the way.
Texas Texas 69's Oklahoma in the Cotton Bowl. Is that going to be it?
69 minutes of podcasting, and OU still sucks.
I love it. Okay, well, we better end it here. Thank you guys. Hook 'em, and we'll see you next week. Peace.
All right, peace out.